Okay, so we're going to continue talking about photosynthesis here. Remember, basic ingredients: sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, and the pigments, or the structure containing the pigments, are required to run the pathway. And then what comes out of it? Oxygen and glucose. Oxygen is not needed to run this pathway. It is a waste product or an end product of photosynthesis. Plants do not require oxygen during photosynthesis. They give it off. They release it. It diffuses out of them, goes into the atmosphere. And then the cellular respiration, the aerobic cellular respiration pathway, pulls it in and uses it. All right, so we were talking about the pathway. Keep in mind, the vast majority of producers are all using the newer pathway, the non-cyclic, step 1, step 2. And plants and producers have all kind of tweaked it and evolved slightly different adaptations to that pathway to give them an advantage in different environments. So our C3 plants, again, those are the plants that do well in cool, moist environments. They tend to grow really well in spring and in fall. So any of those plants out there flowering in the springtime, flowering in the fall, those tend to be C3 plants. Now the next group is what's called C4 plants. These plants do well in hot and dry conditions. Now this is not a desert, hot and dry. They tend to grow well in the summer. All right, so corn. Corn is a good example of a C4 plant. Now we have genetically modified it to make it even more adaptable during hot and dry environments or hot and dry conditions, but it tends to follow the principles of C4 plants. A better example are weeds. So think about your lawn in the middle of July when we get into a drought. If we've not had rain in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, the grass is dead. It's gone dormant. Crabgrass and weeds and things like that, they seem to do okay. These plants are C4 plants. They are adapted to that hot, dry environment. But they still need moisture at some point. Again, this is not desert environments. This is drought conditions. So think about in Illinois, in our backyard, spring tends to be wet and rainy. Summer gets hot and dry. Fall goes back to being cooler and moist. So you got C3 plants in the beginning in the spring, C4 plants in the summer, C3 plants doing well in the fall again. Okay? It's just a matter of they are adapting or have adapted and evolved to optimize their reproduction during those different windows of the growing season. So they both are using photosynthesis, but they, again, have kind of tweaked it a little bit. And I'll show you the tweak in a minute here. Very common, well, maybe not realizing it, but a common example of a C4 plant, pineapples. Pineapples grow on what look like spiky bushes. Those are C4 plants. Now, the plants that are adapted to hot and dry all the time are what we call cam plants. These are your desert plants. Okay, so a cam plant is a desert plant. What they do is they're using photosynthesis, but they've modified that pathway to run stage 1, light dependent, during the day. So they run it during the day, and then they wait, and at night they shift over and go to stage 2. Okay, so they're still doing photosynthesis, just like the corn plants, the crabgrass, the spring flowers. They just do day and then shift over to night. And now the whole reason why these plants are doing this a little differently is because of the water issue. So this decrease in water, whether it's in the desert or just the middle of July in Illinois, it leads to a thing called heat stress. All right, heat stress is a big thing for plants. So if you look at corn plants in Illinois, when they go into heat stress, the leaves kind of curl up and they fold upward. They physically change their appearance because they're running out of water. They're not getting enough moisture, and they're going into, again, this thing called heat stress. So drought conditions tend to cause plants to do this. So when plants start moving towards heat stress because of lack of water, what they're going to do is close their stomata, or stoma, to trap the water within the cell. Alright, cell/leaf. So plants are afraid of losing that water. You lose your water, you can't break it apart, you don't have electrons for the pathway, you don't have hydrogens. It's a huge issue. So they kind of freak out, and they close the cells up, and they trap all this water inside. But in doing so, when they trap water inside, they're creating a huge problem for themselves. Okay, so let me draw out what goes on during heat stress here. Okay, so here's our plant cell. There's a little stoma, those openings there. Okay, so when they're open, CO2 goes in and oxygen comes out. And if the plant's happy and healthy, nice big bag of water, that's the thing we call a central vacuole. And remember, it's going to have all these little green discs called chloroplasts scattered throughout the cell, and life's good for the plant. Now, when it's hot and dry, here's our sun. Yeah, that's not really a good sun, but that's supposed to be the sun. Okay, hot and dry. Plant goes into stress. So what it does is it closes this off, shuts these openings. The way it works, there's actually two cells side by side called guard cells, and when they get dry, when they feel heat stress, they swell up and they close that opening off. Now what that has done, that has blocked CO2 from going in. That has blocked oxygen from getting out. So there's a buildup of oxygen inside the cell. Now the reason why C4 plants do okay in drought is that they have this little backup reservoir of CO2 sitting here. So they can close this pore or these pores up, and they're still going to use the CO2 for photosynthesis. They got the water there, the CO2, the sunlight. They're going to be okay for a longer period of time. The C3 plants really are not good. They don't have any backup CO2. So when you close a stoma, you prevent carbon dioxide from coming in, which is an essential ingredient of photosynthesis, and you trap oxygen inside, which is not necessary at all. So plants sometimes try to shift over into a thing called photorespiration, where they use oxygen to make energy. Just not real efficient. Doesn't work real well for them. Doesn't turn out so good. So the plants are stressed, and they're going, this drought's terrible. I know, it's horrible. I'm so dry, I'm so thirsty, I need more moisture, but I can't get it. And what's going to happen is this vacuole is going to start to get smaller and smaller, smaller and smaller, and at a certain critical point, plant says, we got to open up. Open up. Not your whole cell wall there, but open up those pores to allow carbon dioxide in, oxygen out. But what happens, because it's so hot and so dry, you get this mass exodus of water, dehydration, water leaves the cell, and the cells die. Okay, so C3 plants don't have a backup supply. They can't handle heat stress. C4 plants can handle heat stress longer, but not constant. CAM plants, what they're doing is during the day, they are closing up those pores, and they're running stage 1. And they have all the internal ingredients for stage 1. Sunlight, water and pigments. Water and pigments for stage 1 during the day. Now at night, they shift. Nighttime rolls along, get rid of those, open those pores up, and now the CO2 comes in, oxygen goes out. Stage 2 gets run at night with those CAM plants. And then when it warms up during the day, they shift back over and just basically reverse, go back to stage 1 during the day, stage 2 at night, 1 in the day, 2 at night. Okay? Alright, so plants have a whole list of other adaptations that enable them to survive different environments. Dormancy is an adaptation to cold. A lot of them will have relationships with insects to increase their chances of reproduction, called mutualism. We'll talk more about this in ecology, but honeybees are a major pollinator of a lot of plants, and as we continue to lose honeybees on this planet, we're threatening the plant survival, which then threatens human survival. So something we'll revisit with ecology when we get to that unit. Plants use root systems to make them adaptable to different environments. You know, big fibrous roots, tap roots, etc. All sorts of different types of root systems to make them adaptable, again, to various environments. As we mentioned earlier, cacti, desert plants, lots of adaptations. They store water, the needles. The needles are actually the leaves of the cactus. That helps decrease water loss. You know, with these guys being CAM plants, they're adapted to those environments. This is why you don't grow cactus in Illinois outside. Wrong environmental conditions. This is also why you don't grow grass in Arizona. Wrong environmental conditions. Mutualistic relationships with bacteria in order to obtain nitrogen from the environment. These are all of our legumes, bean plants. They need those bacteria in those little root cells, root nodules, in order for them to maximize productivity. Some plants even eat things. Venus flytraps, pitcher plants. They eat animals. They eat insects in order to obtain their source of nitrogen. So it gets into a goofy situation, kind of like our sea slug. Is this a plantimal? It runs photosynthesis, but it also eats stuff. Okay, so what we want to think about is how photosynthesis and cellular respiration work together. The end products of photosynthesis become the ingredients for cellular respiration. The end products of respiration become the ingredients for photosynthesis. They work together hand in hand. They're supposed to be balanced. But what we've done is we have done a massive decrease in the number of organisms that run photosynthesis, and there's a significant increase in cellular respiration and also other sources of producing carbon dioxide, and we've thrown these two systems completely out of whack. This is why we're dealing with climate change. This is why we're seeing it happen in front of our eyes. Those two systems are not in balance anymore. Okay, so consider the U.S. Think about forests. This is virgin forests. 1620. Look how much of the United States was forested. We're looking at, 400, almost 400 years later, there's almost no virgin forest left in our country. Now, we've replanted. We've established new forests. We've grown new ones. But it's not the same. And as we cut down a forest for lots of different purposes, whether it's development or we need a lumber for whatever products, we are removing massive numbers of producers. We're literally taking out the organisms that are giving us oxygen when we cut them down. Now, I'm not saying we don't need those wood products, but maybe we should consider trying to find a way to balance. Cut them down. Maybe we should also be replanting or reducing the amount of wood products we use, things like that. Okay, so we'll get into that more with ecology, but those two pathways right there, that's the basis of ecology and how an ecosystem functions. So we'll check that out in a later unit, but for now, photosynthesis. Ingredients going in, end products coming out. We'll move into respiration next.